Hey, thanks for joining Seth on Call. Today, I'm going to do a reaction to a reaction video. So a little bit of reaction inception here. Reacting to a video that ThePrimeagen did on a younger individual who has lost his job after about, I think he mentions about 3 years of development and has been jobless for a year. So I'm going to go ahead and roll the introduction to the video, and then I'm going to stop through a few different sections and talk about my thoughts on a little bit of an area where I had my ears perk up a bit. We'll go ahead and get started here.
My experience being unemployed for a year as a software engineer.
A video talking a little bit about my experience with unemployment as a software engineer, the job market, everything relating to that, because I think a lot of people are experiencing this a little bit, and there's a lot of talk about the job market specifically in computer science and like software engineering. And as someone who's just been experiencing it for the past year or so, I think I have some insights into kind of what's going on. So just as like a little bit of background, I have a physics degree. I have 3 years.
That guy's based. Okay, he has a physics degree. Man knows stuff. I've heard it been argued. Everyone always argues. There's math, there's physics, and there's chemistry, and each one argues it's the true science. I think physics might be the true science. Just throwing that out there. Physics might be the true science.
I have a physics degree. I have 3 years of experience as a software engineer. I have been unemployed for roughly a year. I think I'm coming up in a couple of days on 1 year of unemployment. I have been actively searching for a job for a good chunk of the time. Like I'd probably say maybe like 6 to 7 months of the time that I've been unemployed, I've been like actively searching. I did take a little bit of time off, so I guess not a full year of like searching actively, but I've probably sent out 300 or 400 applications. So it's not like I'm not trying.
So far, it sounds like he is putting some work into going out there, putting a lot of applications out there in this past year. I did like that he admitted that, the whole time hasn't necessarily been 24/7, like, hitting submit on forms and everything. So, I understand taking a little break as well, and just kind of having some time to work on some projects and maybe travel a little bit. So totally understand taking that time. So we have an idea that it's not necessarily like the full year has been just hammering job openings throughout this time frame. So good to have that context. But yeah, sucks. Like having, kind of getting out of college, having that, career rolling with some development, and then boom, getting this, gap of year. Totally understand that sucking. Okay, I'm going to skip a little ahead to details he gives about what his work position is right now.
And I'm also working like 30 to 40 hours a week at a part-time job, probably not full 40 hours, probably somewhere around like 25 to 30 hours a week. So I'm like also working. I have a job right now. I'm making money, not in my industry, but I have a part-time job. Second,
that has to be so draining. Just thinking through that, because when I was washing dishes instead of working, like it was extremely draining. When I was working at Sears selling TVs, it was very draining knowing that I wanted to be programming and then not being able to program, but instead sitting there trying to sell a TV. Like that is very, that is very, 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 very difficult.
But I have a part-time job.
My comment there is, within the food industry, I think, there's still things to learn, right? There's still being able to show up on time, being able to work hard. And I still think those are things that can benefit your career, and just being able to, have that reference even of that boss, and really showing that you're somebody who can show up. And that is so vital in today's work world, of just really doing those two things, showing up on time and working hard. That can be a huge kind of evangelism of your career as you move into different roles. So I wouldn't completely throw shade on that. And then even talking about retail, as far as Prime talks about working retail in Sears selling TVs. I worked retail in high school in the kind of computer components section of Fry's Electronics. In that, yeah, there's ways of looking at that being like kind of a dead end job. You kind of get stuck in sales, and that can be, I saw a lot of guys kind of get stuck in that. But really for me, I saw it still as an opportunity of learning. I was going down those aisles, stocking the shelves with network equipment, people walking by the motherboard section and CPUs asking questions, memory compatibility type questions. And I would have to say, how tough for me to like really point to like, oh, on this day, this is what happened. It really advanced my career in such a way. I think, there really was things that did happen at that job that helped me learn. I eventually did graduate with a network engineering degree. So stocking those routers on the shelves and just kind of seeing the ones that are out there and explaining to people how to use them and maybe how to set them up when they get home was something something that helped me eventually when I kind of got in this implementation services world, was telling people, IT departments, how to implement call center software. There can be ways of looking at these type job roles as, yeah, they suck, but they can really have benefits. They're better than like just sitting at home and doing nothing, or okay, there could be worse jobs. Okay. So yeah, I tend to have always kind of a little bit of a silver lining look at some of those jobs. Fry's Electronics, rest in peace. So I'm going to skip forward a little bit in talking about from his restaurant experience work. Is there really something where a job where we're just really not getting anything out of it? And again, we're talking from a perspective here of a job hunt where maybe we're in a little bit of a desperation. There's just not an availability of a lot of the jobs that we want. And so we're looking for what can we deal with that's the best right now. So I'm going to skip ahead here to kind of a main segment that I wanted to talk about.
You have to kind of get your hopes up. You have to look at the job and be like, am I going to be excited to be in this role? Is this something I can see myself doing? Is this something I'll enjoy? Is this going to be like good for my career? Like, at the end of the day, I'm looking for jobs to further my career. I don't want to just work some dead end stupid job. I want to go somewhere where I want to be there for a while. I want to like learn new things. I want to like push my career forward. I'm going to be 30 in a couple of years. Like,
I do want to throw something out there. Depending on what he means, like I don't want to do a dead end thing. It's really hard to interpret what he's saying right here. Like, is he saying that he's passing up a bunch of programming jobs because they don't feel good enough for him, or is he saying like I don't want to be an IT consultant who doesn't do any programming? Which that I totally get. Like, hey, I'm on your team. Like, if you're like, hey, I don't want to be a part of the Geek Squad because that doesn't actually get me any closer, then I'm like, I'm on your team for sure. I totally get that.
Okay. So, shots fired. I mean, I would consider myself working in the IT space for the last decade and plus a few years. I've mostly worked implementation services for contact center software in the space of many different companies, right, ranging from banks, hospitals, oil companies. So I've worked with a lot of IT teams. I understand from a perspective of IT world and development world, sometimes there can be a bit of a rift that does happen there. And a lot of times, like, we might see an IT type position being something limiting away from a little bit more depth of career in development. But I really wanted to challenge this idea of that we can really open the window of saying that something IT related is going to be in the category of dead end job, or that's not going to help you, or something that you should really move on from. Keeping your restaurant job, pass up an IT job, and holding out for that development job. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about what my thoughts are on this. We're going to hit one other section, and then I'll explain a little bit more.
And so when I hear this, I'm just curious, what does he mean by I want to work a job? Like, if you say, like, again, if he's saying he doesn't want to go work, at a help desk. Yeah, okay. It's totally, that makes sense. You want to work towards your career. I get that. But you're also doing 25 to 30 hours of work, and you didn't specify whether that's helping you or not towards your career. So getting closer constantly is always a good idea. But saying no just because, like, it's Java, dude, hell, if I had to, I'd work in COBOL, right? I would have no problem. I'd roll up them sleeves. I would make that man bun on top of my head, and I would get my hands dirty with COBOL, right? Like, it would not stop me.
Go somewhere where I want to be there for a while. I want to like learn new things. I want to like push my career forward. I'm going to be 30 in a couple of years. Like, it's important that I take a good job right now.
Okay. Important that I take a good job right now. And I understand, like, you're in your 20s, and so you're trying to do what you can to have the primo job where you have the time to really go all in on a big project that a company has, and you can really cut your teeth. When you do have this time, you can really devote some extra hours to your job, maybe outside the 40-hour work week when you're a bit older and you do want to kind of stick to a little bit more of the 40 because you've kind of gotten past those younger years, the ability. But again, speaking from the premise here that we've been out of a job for a year and we're a little desperate, I really would challenge the idea that the help desk job might be something that you shouldn't take, or is something else that you should pass off. I really don't think so. I think there can be some ways in which you'll still be able to work on some development, or at least even be around developers when taking even just low-level IT help desk, or maybe just some sort of kind of position that is in a technical realm for a company. Just in my experience, I've worked with a lot of different IT departments, kind of gotten this really cool experience, with working kind of gig to gig and implementation services for a business to business type software company. The staff that I've met at a lot of these IT organizations, even for them, they were somebody who were, maybe they were in the call center or they had some sort of other business job. And one day the IT guy came to help out somebody at their, maybe a cubicle mate or something like that. And they said, well, hey, I actually tried a few things. And they helped the IT guy out. And the IT guy's like, oh, hey, you're great at this. Would you want to come help us out? Would you like maybe a department switch? I mean, that really happened. I was in Pittsburgh one time and working for a bank there, and was working with the telephony admin, and he told me he was just a call center agent. And one day an IT guy had come over to troubleshoot a VoIP phone, and he spoke up and said, hey, I tried a few things. I think we're almost there. IT guy worked with him a little bit on some of the things he had tried. And together they ended up solving the issue. And the IT guy was like, hey, I know that there's kind of some administration of the VoIP systems that we're not able to do right now in the IT department. Would you want to come check out a position we have? And that's how he got that job. And so he really kind of moved up from taking phone calls day in and day out for the bank to now being able to have a little bit more of a technical job of advancing his career more in that space as he kind of moved up those ranks. Obviously, huge opportunity once you're kind of in the system and have that ability. And a lot of times what I've seen too is even advancement from really even system administration positions to where you're really managing a software product, or just you've gotten trained on it, you got the certifications, and then, one day something's not as broken and the development team over that creates little customizations for your Salesforce instance, they're filled up and they just have nothing. But as a system admin, you've got people hammering for something that went down or broke or something like that. And so sure enough, you start to dig into some logs, and then you start to see, how some things are getting processed in the browser. And then a little bit later, you're helping out the Salesforce people with being able to provide a fix much quicker, giving them a lot of background, saving them a ton of time, providing those resources for them. And then all of a sudden, the Salesforce team says, hey, would you help us out with this position of basically what you did? You could almost say as a very junior entry level position to Salesforce development within some of their Apex classes, very low level. That gets you in the door of now all of a sudden you're having to work with JavaScript, and now you're in a development role. I've seen this happen over and over again in these kind of graduation IT space into dev, and even people who come into the dev world and just decide programming isn't for them, but then they see the network engineers and they're like, oh, that's a cool job, and they go that route. And so there can be, even in the tech world, a lot of cross-pollination, if you will, of careers. And I think ultimately people can settle in a job that they love that may not necessarily be so specific to this development world. And Prime even goes into it, makes a great example of like, hey, even if you're really looking for a specific language and that none of those jobs are just available, like, yeah, do Java or Cobalt or one of these older ones, because there could be a job out there and you get into it and you're like, oh gosh, I gotta learn this old language. But then, you find ways of being able to incorporate the new programming languages into those features and being able to eventually replace that product with something that you are a little bit more passionate about. There's always going to be those opportunities, I think, that spread. And so I understand trying to avoid dead-end type job. I do want to even take this analogy even one step further. And I know this is going out on a little bit of a ledge here. I want to talk about this just because I want to provide encouragement for those that might be kind of thinking there's just no way they can make any inroads into their dream company or that dream job at that really kind of cool tech company down the road. And I just want to provide this as an encouragement. And I know I could probably get a lot of pushback for saying this. I do really think there is opportunity in this. And so the premise being, okay, we've been out of a job for a year and we're already working a restaurant, waiting tables, and so we're already in this the kind of the food space, and we want to get into back in our tech. We want to start developing again, having a developer's job. Well, think about this. What if you went to that dream tech company that you want and you look through their entire catalog of available jobs? A lot of times tech companies have, other positions that aren't really even related to tech. For instance, I know a lot of different tech companies I've been in. They have a really cool, nice cafe downstairs. And what if there is a cafe position available for, I don't know, the panini press guy, and you're making paninis for the tech employees? You know what? that may not necessarily be a dead end job. That might be an opportunity. I might suggest at least looking into it, because guess what? Once you get that job and you're now in the door of your dream tech company, you're now in the HR system. And that is a huge step. I mean, you're just, already you've kind of gone through a bit of the onboarding. You're already getting at least some of the benefits and perks that are kind of already put onto your HR profile. And then you're in the building and you're walking in with the other developers and you're there, and sure, maybe you're making them sandwiches, but hey, there can still be a conversation. They can still see you. They can obviously see two really important things. And that is you showing up on time and working hard. And that really can translate to not only those individuals around you, but also to your boss. And your boss at least being able to see that you have these two really great qualities. When you're then looking at the jobs are getting a little bit better, and sure enough, openings are starting to become available within the company for some of those development positions you still have that portfolio that you worked on, and maybe even your side projects that you have done. And then what really starts to work for you is that when you apply for that position and you reference your manager, guess what? The manager is now just an internal email, an internal phone call, and an internal Slack IM message away from the manager that you want to then be working for at this development position. And I'm telling you, I said internal 3 times there because it is so important. There is a world of difference in saying how the communication between two managers can happen internally versus a manager contacting externally some other manager. I have had management positions before, even if it is, somebody within the company in a department I don't even really know that well. If they're another fellow manager within my rank system file of the company, and I can just hop in Slack or whatever IM tool we're using and message like, hey, how is this guy as a worker? Like, I'm looking at the portfolio, I'm seeing what I need to from a knowledge standpoint. How is their work ethic? And they can say, you know what, they show up on time every day and they work super hard. They honestly are known for making the best paninis in this cafe. That is going to do so well for you. You're just going to have a leg up on a lot of the external individuals that are trying to get in there, and they are maybe have a little bit more experience than you. And I know that is kind of a far out analogy there to say like, hey, if you go into a tech company and work in their cafe, you're eventually going to get that big senior developer job on down the road. But hey, again, we're in a position where we don't necessarily know the future, and we're being able to, I think, open up a little bit more of doors of opportunities. I would say don't throw those those help desk positions that are closer to maybe even that company or that end job role that is your dream job role. I say, go for it. Take it. It's better than, you're doing now as far as not having much available on your plate. And I think there can be really cool opportunities there. And another thing is just to kind of discuss it. I know that a lot of people might see there is like almost like a rift between what is IT and development. I've seen it throughout the years of a lot of times being sent on site for customers. When I phone home to the home office about a feature that we have not working in the customer environment, a lot of times I'm met with a very cold response or not much of a response from the development group because I'm more so on the IT side or implementation services, so on and so forth. And I think, well, there can be a little bit of like team rivalry, like in sports or something. I think those lines are blurring much more now. A lot of IT work is involving scripts and other forms if you use like Terraform or other applications that are very kind of CLI and very similar to what developers might use a lot in different environments. I think there is a lot more of the lines bleeding over in between these two, I suppose, worlds of thought in between development and maybe IT world. I wouldn't say there's going to be much of that in the future. I think there's going to be a lot of blend of it. So don't be afraid that you're really getting siloed over in the IT world. There's a lot of blending these days. I'm all here for it. I don't like the kind of riff back and forth. I very much started in IT. I was a network engineer by my degree and coming out of the IT space. And a lot of what I do today is scripts, coding. A lot of times it's kind of building different apps that plug into cloud frameworks for web development. And that was never really much. I took programming classes in college, but that was not really what I thought I was going to be doing day in and day out. But hey, careers change, life changes, and I think you really need to make sure you kind of keep yourself open to those opportunities. I say, hey, go for help desk, go for IT roles if you can, if you're in this position. And I think it really will advance your career. Hey, thanks for watching. If you have any comments or you think I'm nuts, please leave that in the comments below. If you wouldn't mind giving a like and a subscribe. Also, Seth on call on Twitch, try and stream when I can. I'm still trying to figure out when my schedule is going to be. And yeah, and if anything else, just, give a comment below. Thank you very much for watching and have a good day.